Good morning, everyone. It's me, Erica, and welcome back to the channel. Hopefully we're getting a little more consistent because our long drive across the country has been completed. That's always nice. Today we are commonplacing about the Oscars. Possibly a weird thing to commonplace about, but I had never seen the Oscars before, ever. I've seen videos of people, rank their outfits and completely diss and destroy people's outfits and dresses on social media, and I always liked looking at the fashion. But I'm staying with my grandparents, and they still have cable and they just watch completely different stuff than what I would normally watch. It's kind of like when you go to your friend's house and their family has completely different habits than your family, and it's just like walking into another world. So they had the Oscars on all day, all of the preview stuff, everything. And then the Oscars started and they didn't turn it off, and I had come in and sat and I was like, oh yeah, let's watch this. And I had never seen it before, so it was very fascinating to me. And so we watched it, and I remember the camera panned, not even, maybe it was to Emily Blunt. No, whoever was sitting in front of Emily Blunt. It would pan to whoever was sitting in front of Emily Blunt, and in the back, just between two people, you could see John Krasinski. And the brooch he was wearing immediately caught my eye. First of all, I love white, and I love cream. So the fact that he was wearing a cream suit, first of all, caught my attention. But then the brooch he was wearing, I was like, oh my God, that is a stunning brooch. And I'm really picky about jewelry, and I'm really picky about brooches too, specifically. So it was very interesting to me. But then every time the camera panned over there and I would see it in the background sparkling, I was like, oh, it's so pretty. So anyway, we watched the Oscars, and it was so long and great. It was fun to watch. I was like, wow, I love women supporting other women. I love rich people complimenting each other, because that's all it is, right? It's just rich people complimenting each other, and trying to be humble, and it's a whole thing. So we're not going to talk about the politics of it or anything. I'm here to talk about the jewelry. So I printed out, as you can see, I overestimated how big I needed it. So I printed out this brooch, huge, and the brooch and the picture are the same size, and that's not gonna work. So I cut it out. I don't know if I cut it out of the video, but I did cut out the brooch, and tried to fiddle with it on the page, and just realized, no, it's too big. It's too freaking big. So I ended up later, after recording, using my HP sprocket to print out a smaller picture of the brooch. It's a Tiffany brooch, and I was looking. So again, I saw this brooch on John Krasinski, and I was like, I'm in love with this brooch. I need to know about it. And so I did my internet sleuthing. I did my reverse Google image searching, and I eventually found it. It's a Tiffany, what is it? It's the something arrows brooch. And it's made with platinum and a sapphire, a 5-carat sapphire in the center. And then, of course, diamonds, because everything ritzy needs to have diamonds in it. I'm not exactly, I like diamonds because they're sparkly and they're white, so they're pretty neutral and they go with everything. And I thought it was very interesting because I'm not usually drawn to purple or colored gemstones, really. I do really like white gemstones, or I'm more drawn to pinks or greens, not ever the purples and the blues. But if you guys play video games, and you know about Destiny 2, this reminds me of Callus, which is a character in the video games. He's actually one of the villains, and everything is gold and white and purple with Callus. So it reminded me of Callus from Destiny 2, which is the game that my boyfriend and I met playing. And then it also reminded me of my best friend because her favorite color is purple. And yeah, so I was just really drawn to it. And so it's a purple sapphire, and of course I love sapphires. So I think sapphires are so interesting, and I think people forget that they can be other colors than blue and white. And so this one is like, it printed out kind of blue. But the Tiffany, like the official Tiffany photograph, like on like a computer screen, it is somewhere between like blue and purple. So I thought that was interesting. That I was so drawn to it, and it also just like reminds me of a star or something kind of celestial, which oh no, my laptop's dying. Oh my gosh. Hold on, wait, we're gonna have to pause it. Oh yeah, it just died. Alright, okay, we're back. Note to self that trying to run Premiere Pro on your laptop while it's not plugged in on a 5-year-old laptop, maybe not the best idea. That ate my battery quick, holy crap, because I remember I checked before I was recording. I was like, oh, it's full battery, I don't have to bring my charger. Wow, Premiere Pro just ate my battery, which makes sense. Anyway, so we watched the Oscars. I found this pretty brooch. It's by Tiffany. And then when I was researching, like, most of the men at the Oscars were wearing brooches, which was very cool. I think that men wearing brooches has become more trendy and more popular, and that's what the article I printed out was about, of how men are wearing brooches more and kind of what that means and what that says. And it talked kind of more about how events like these and how celebrities have found, that they're just billboards and they're just marketing space for companies to pay to wear and borrow different things. And I highlighted in the article, it says the Tiffany brooch gets around, which is true, because like all of the men were wearing brooches, and then like I swear half of them at least were Tiffany, which I just thought was very interesting. I know Cillian Murphy, he was wearing a bespoke one that I forget who made it, but it's supposed to be a reference to the atomic bomb. And I know that they were saying that Oppenheimer won so many Oscar awards. Like, it did really well at the Oscars this year. I haven't seen the movie. But then I was watching like the news or something, because that's all my grandparents have on is just the news, which, oh my gosh, I'm so fatigued of the news. Guys, don't bury yourself with news, okay? Your mental health deserves better than that. But on the news, they were saying that, like, I think Cillian was the only one of the Oppenheimer winners to actually reference what the movie was even about and the effects of the bomb. And he's also the only, like, non-American or something like that. They made some kind of comment like that. But, which I just thought was interesting. So I enjoyed looking at all the brooches. Emily's blunt dress I did not like because of the straps, which I think everyone didn't like because of the straps. And then I'm gonna mess up her last name, Florence Pugh. Her dress also did the same thing of, like, it was gorgeous and beautiful, but then those straps stuck out, and I was like, what are you doing? I know it's supposed to be fashion and, like, whatever, but if that becomes like a trend or something, I'm gonna scream. We don't need that in our lives. How's everyone else? Did you watch the Oscars? Whose dress was your favorite? I thought Emma Stone's speech was so cute. I haven't seen any of the movies. I love movies. I love watching movies. I've always loved watching movies. Growing up, my parents in the basement, we had, like, the biggest TV was downstairs in the basement, and we had surround sound in the basement, and it was very dark, and we had blackout curtains, and so watching movies down there was great. And I would come home from school and I would watch something, and it was the age of, like, the dystopian movie. It was great. So Hunger Games, Divergent, all of that. I love movies, I really do. But I always felt like I needed someone to watch them with, so I don't watch them. as much as I would like to, because I always feel like I need company. Even when I'm just like at home, like if I'm gonna rent a movie, like $5 to rent it just so I can watch it sometimes feels a little weird or like expensive to me, even though like it's not. And then, oh my gosh, going to the theater is even more expensive. So and I think people in general are afraid to do things like go to movie theaters, which makes no sense because it's dark anyway, and literally you're not supposed to talk. Or like restaurants, people are afraid to go by themselves. And I've gotten really good at going shopping and errand running and stuff like that by myself, and even going hiking and going to parks and like gardens. I've gotten very good about doing that by myself, but I'm still bad about like movies and eating out like in a restaurant by myself. But I think it's because I want to discuss the things that I watch and the things that I see, and you know, when I don't have anyone, it's kind of hard. It's kind of annoying. I just thought of this watching this video back. I wonder if I should sometimes print things on like vellum or transparent paper, because they make that and you can put that in your printer. And I'm wondering if like for stuff like the jewelry, I hate cutting it out so close because I hate that little white line that goes around it. I don't know, I never feel like I can get it even, and it's like a weird, I don't know, I prefer to leave like the square around it rather than cut like around the actual object. But I'm wondering if I printed it on transparent paper, if that would solve like half my issues. I should try that. What was I saying? Oh yeah, movies. Like I tried so desperately to see the new Hunger Games movie. Never saw it. Still haven't seen it. Really, really, really want to see it. I really wanted to see Oppenheimer. I really wanted to see Barbie. I really wanted to see Poor Things. But they were in theaters and I had no one to go with. And so I need to just start going to movie theaters by myself and just say, fuck it. Like, again, you're in the dark, you're sitting, who cares? We used to make fun of my art teacher in high school because he was just like this single man. I don't think he ever got married. But he was like the coolest man ever. Like he was a magnificent coach. He coached the track team, he coached the chess team, he was an art teacher. He was just an all-around great guy, had great stories. I interviewed him for one of my poetry projects because I was like, this man has to have some baffling, amazing stories about life, and he did, and it was great. And he used to tell us that he would go to the movies by himself and just like vibe and chill and watch movies. And I think that was very important, and I aspire to be him. I aspire to be him in the sense of like he just didn't give a shit. He just went places by himself and it was great. But yeah, let me know if you guys have anxiety about that, of like doing things by yourself or wanting a friend to go with you, because again, like if it's shopping, like clothes shopping, errand running, I would prefer to do those things by myself. Because I can take my time, I can look, and I hate clothes shopping with other people because they just tell you look good in everything, and they try and convince you to buy more shit than you need. So I don't like shopping for like clothes or anything or furniture with other people because I need my own brain. And like thrift shopping, I'm okay. I love going to an antique mall by myself because I can take as much time as I want. I can go wherever I want, like walking downtown, little places. You don't have to go in stores you don't want to if you're by yourself, and you can go into as many and you can take your time. So stuff like that I'm super cool with doing by myself, but like going to cafes, I don't really like to do by myself. Restaurants, I've never done by myself. Movies, I don't like to go to by myself. I can go hiking by myself and I prefer that. So yeah, if you guys got anxiety or anything about that, let me know. Let a girl know. Let's talk about it. And let's figure out where this comes from. But anyway, I talked about movies for quite a while. I didn't realize that I managed that. What else should we talk about? We went for a drive the other day to go see some not redwood. What are they called? Red bud trees. they're starting to bloom where I am, and my grandparents were like, let's just go for a drive and look at some redbud trees. And it was like the middle of the day, and I was like, you know what, sure, let's do it, let's go. Really weird what old people do with their time. This weekend we went to Missouri, middle of nowhere Missouri, nothing interesting, which is fine because I have a goal to visit all 50 states, and in order to check off every state I have to go to a big city, a suburb, and like a rural place, or like hiking or something. So I got my rural place of Missouri checked off. That's fine. And there were cows, and I got to pet the cows, and it was great. So funny to watch the cows. They saw their owner coming, and they all started mooing and coming over, and they were so excited to see him. And then he started giving them snacks, and they were all so excited, and they were baby cows, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're all so cute. I get so emotional over like the stupidest things these days. Like, everything is beautiful to me, and everything is precious and worth crying over. So I was like crying over these baby cows and how excited these cows were to see their owner, and I was so afraid to touch them and pet them because I didn't want to scare them, and I could kind of tell that I was making them uneasy. There was about 4 of us, and then the guy, the owner, he went to go get like another bucket of treats, and it was like a different treat, and it was in a white bucket, and those cows saw that white bucket and they just lost their minds. They were so excited for whatever was in that white bucket. It was great. So eventually I did kind of just lift my hand over the fence and, you know, let one of them sniff me, and then it realized it didn't have food and it snorted on me. So it didn't like me. I don't think the cows liked me, which is like fine, right? Like, they're herd animals. They probably don't really like outsiders, and they'd never seen me before. And I think that's a good lesson of, like, you know, I've always tried to remind myself, like, you can't force animals to like you, and the more that you try and force your love on them, the less they will like you. That's my pro tip, especially for cats. You have to let a cat come to you. You cannot force your love on a cat. And so I was just like, you know what? They don't like me, fine. I'll watch from a distance. That's okay. I will admire them from afar. And that's what I did. And so I got to pet a cow. I took home a dozen farm fresh eggs. It was great. We had a great time. Well, my grandparents had a great time. I don't know if I had a great time. It was a little... I like to say that my Maryland is showing, because I grew up in a pretty... not like a city. Like, I didn't grow up in like a New York city kind of city. But I grew up in a very densely populated area. Where like I grew up just outside of Washington, D.C. So there was nothing but suburbs for like an hour in every direction. And in order to get anything countryside, you had to go. Well, luckily I lived right on the outskirts of a more rural town. And so I didn't have to go far to see cows in fields. But even then, it was just like, it's just like different. So sometimes, and I do love the middle of nowhere, don't get me wrong. I do love the middle of nowhere. But I prefer to be in the middle of nowhere by myself, as weird as that sounds, or with like good friends and family. I was with a bunch of strangers. They were strangers to me. I don't know if you can hear my grandpa talking to his cat. But I was in the middle of nowhere with family like that I had never met, and so they were essentially strangers, right? I don't really like being in the middle of nowhere with people I don't know. So anyway, I guess this video is starting to wrap up. We commonplaced about the brooch, we commonplaced about the article and what I thought it was missing. We talked about some cows, we talked about some movies. What was your favorite movie of this year? We watched a movie called Nell last night, and if you are looking for some weird movies, some 90s movies with some superb acting, Jodie Foster's in it, I 100% recommend the movie Nell. It is about essentially a wild woman. She grew up in the woods with no one to socialize with but her mother. Has not experienced electricity, music, phones, anything like that. Completely grew up in the wild, essentially. And it's a great movie. I recommend it and it's one of my favorites. I think mostly because my grandpa showed it to me, so it has some very good memories attached to it. But it was an Oscar nominee, like back in the day, in '94. So that is my random movie recommendation. Super great movie. And this page is done, so we're looking for some stars to stick in. I know that I always lose my silver stars, but I hope you guys have an absolutely lovely day, because you 100% deserve it, and I will see you all next time.